Good afternoon. Thank you for this opportunity to speak. I am grateful for your time. My name is Matthias LaGuire, and I reside at 830 East Sandusky Street with my wife and our 8 children, and I am contesting the at-large seats for City Council. I am proud to be from Findlay, Ohio, and to also call it my home. I am motivated to run for City Council by a desire to see all citizens represented fairly by a City Council that provides transparency for their actions. The recent passage of unjust legislation and lack of accountability is deeply troubling, and those actions encouraged me to run for office in order to protect the community. I will not use laws as weapons against citizens, as has recently occurred. My top priority is to protect individual rights, especially property rights. I am eager to see this accomplished through the repeal of biased laws and open, honest communication from City Council, rather than new rules that prohibit transparency and accountability. I am opposed to prosecuting citizens for how they maintain their property. This is not the role of government in a free society. North Korea, maybe. The United States of America, definitely not. Cities shouldn't even try to implement HOA-type laws. In addition, continued work on the Blanchard River, Lye Creek, and Eagle Creek after the 2007 flood is much needed, with fewer studies and more action, like scheduled cleanings. City Council members are responsible for the laws which govern our city, laws meant to protect the rights of citizens. Since freedom-restrictive laws ultimately stifle community growth, I will work hard to ensure we remain mindful of constitutional provisions moving forward. Ultimately, the community needs responsible representatives who encourage growth through lower taxation, listen to their constituents, and work as neighbors to resolve issues. I was at the center of a controversial law which vacated the streets behind my property, a law which was passed by 6 current City Council members, a prejudiced law against me and my family. I was a victim of their unjust legislation. No one should ever have to endure an ordeal as I did. So I am running for City Council to be sure that citizens are treated fairly and not attacked through legislation. Our community rallied behind me, and we obtained considerably more signatures than necessary for a referendum petition. We were successful in getting a referendum petition on the ballot to give the citizens the opportunity to defeat this injustice. Look at me. I'm not a politician, and I'm never going to be. I'm a voice for the people of Findlay, whose cries have fallen on deaf ears. I am running to represent all citizens, especially those whose voices have been ignored. So, when you are voting, remember there is only one choice for at large, and that's me, Matthias LaGuire. Thank you.
One other housekeeping detail. There are pieces of paper, white paper there on your tables. If you want to submit questions, we're going to take questions later, but I'll tell you that now, so if you're thinking about it, you can get it written down, turn that in. So, and I forgot, is there any other announcements that need to be made, Jim? Bill?
Saturday morning, the office will be open between 9 and 12. If anybody in here or your neighbors or anybody you know needs to pick up a sign, come down to the office and I'll have them available that I have. Any candidates that have not given us signs, if you want to drop them off, you can do that or you can come down.
Thank you, Jim.
Steve, compliments from Bob Rabbit at his 5th District dinner Monday night. I still have tickets. They're $25 a piece, and the speaker will be Liz Cheney. So if you're interested in getting a ticket, see me after the luncheon. And they're $25 a piece. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Next, at large.
I'll try to keep this brief. We want to get the tables and chairs removed for a basketball game. #1 micropolitan community in the country for 5 years in a row. One of Ohio Magazine's best hometowns for this past year. In the top 10 most dynamic college towns in the U.S. Consistent low unemployment, 1% income tax, one of the lowest sales taxes. We could go on and on and on. We are a magnificent community. Now, how many of these achievements are due strictly to City Council? Not one. It takes a strong administration, it takes a responsive council, it takes working with governments at the county, the state, the federal level. It takes working with the nonprofits, it takes working with our business community, our hospital, our college, our school system. It takes working with the Alliance, it takes supporting in any way we can with the Raise the Bar program to improve our ability to have people to enter the workforce. It helps to provide an atmosphere where the private sector can build the needed housing that we have that's going on all over the community. We are truly blessed. And we can go back to our forefathers and their foresight as to why we're able to do this. Yes, we've been blessed by location, we've been blessed by highways and so on and so forth. But we're also blessed by a mayor a half century ago who saw the need for the water system that we have. A Democratic mayor, by the way, but that's all right. Our business community has been outstanding. We have so many opportunities in our business community that provide not only a paycheck for employees to go out into the community every week, but provide expertise, brain power, their support of the arts, of the Marathon Center, the museum, the Fort Finley Playhouse, the facility at the Cube, including the Miracle Field, all of these things. And they support with our community with their hands and with their sweat, and the United Way programs and the Backyard Mission and so on and so forth. We are poised to do even better, and we have some friends in high places that are willing and able to help us. Their names are Lydia Mahalik, Robert Sprague, John Cross, Rob McCauley, Mike Devine, Bob Latta, Rob Portman, yes, even Sherrod Brown. And how long has it been since the Findlay mayor has been a regular visitor to the White House? What do I bring to the table? I think I bring the good sense of what the community needs, and I also bring an ability to look forward as to what we need to do in the future. I'll close with the words of that great Canadian philosopher, Red Green. I'm pulling for you. We're all in this together.
It's a little Joe Biden moment. Good afternoon. My name is Grant Russell. I believe most of you know me. I am honored to currently serve the citizens of Findlay, all the citizens, on City Council. I'm going to try to keep this brief so we can get to the main attraction. Just a quick few words. Campaigns are an interesting time. You hear the word I did this, I'm going to do that a lot. But once you're elected, there's no I in it. It's all teamwork. It's what the group does. Nothing gets done alone in government. And I think we have been working very hard. And when I say we, I mean the entire city, the administration, the individual workers, and also the team throughout the city. And then we've seen the results. 5-time Micropolitan of the Year. A lot of times you don't see the results of what the hard work is. Things like water line replacements, when Andrew Thomas works on delinquent tax collections, sewer inspections. But that bread and butter work is important, and it happens day in, day out. And then you have a day like yesterday when everybody sees the end result. $31 million of investment in downtown Findlay. This is a game changer. And you might not see where the city's involved in that, but the city's been a part of this effort for a long time, and the ball's now back to the city council's court for the next step. But the results of all this hard work is big headlines in the paper today, and the lack of headlines because things are being taken care of on a day-to-day basis. So the hard work ends up in good results, and I ask you to keep the team that is bringing these good results, bringing these headlines, bringing this good news, the team that's working hard, and that's why I ask for your vote for re-election to Findlay City Council. Thank you.
Jeff. Oops, sir.
Grant took my joke about the Joe Biden moment. Bud Hawes really raised the bar, Bud. I just hope to God that Shingledecker and Russell don't start speaking in prose at council meetings. That would be a little bit too much to bear. This election in May is very important. We've got a lot of good choices for candidates, which is outstanding. It's probably more choices, quite honestly, than we've had in quite some time. I'm running for my third term as at-large councilman, and I think it's more important than ever this time around that we keep our experienced players in the game. We're going to have a new administration regardless of what happens, right? We're going to have a new mayor, one way or another. And as Grant was mentioning, this is not done by one person alone. Council and the administration have to work together to get things done in the city. And it takes a collaborative effort on both of those parts to get that done. Now, the one part that I've always found interesting and enjoy in campaigns is what folks want to get done. They come up here with a lot of list of things they want to do, but what usually happens is you don't really understand what it is that we do as council people. What do we have a say in? What do we have control of? And it's really, we deal with the money, we act as an overseer for the administration, and we help guide the city in the direction that we hope is the best. We've doing pretty well over the last couple years, and with Lydia moving on to bigger and better things, I think now it's more important than ever to keep experience in the offices where we don't need a lot of change at this point in time. We're doing a decent job. To say the least, this past year for me has been interesting, and however, through that time frame, City Council was always top of mind and making sure that we kept, council members kept doing the things that we need to do to assure that the city's moving in the right direction. Strategic planning was one of the main things that we were pushing for last year. It did make significant progress. However, it didn't get pushed as hard as I needed to push it. It's my initiative to get done, and we will continue to move that this year. We did find out, or through the group that included Dennis Hellman, that we're going to probably look at hiring a consultant for us to help get this put together because it is wide-reaching. Anyway, with that, and before I get hugged, I'd ask for your vote for Jeff Wobser for at-large councilman. Thank you.
Okay. Let me check. Is David Spittler here? David Spittler, he is also a candidate in the Fifth Ward. Okay, didn't want to miss anybody. This is the time of the game where you get a 2-minute break. So just relax. If you have your questions you want to ask, if you've heard anybody so far, go ahead and do that. And we'll continue in 2 minutes or less. Could I have the mayor candidates up here?
Once in a while, I guess I can gotta say something.
Okay, this is the shortest 2-minute break in history. We're getting ready to go, so if you'd find your seats. And if you need to clean the tables, you may continue to do that. Just move on through. We'll forgive you. Because I know we're running a different program today, a different schedule, and that makes it challenging for everybody. So, thank you. First candidate to speak will be Holly Frishy.
I didn't hook you. It's all good. Good afternoon. I am Holly Frishy. I am currently City Council Ward number 1. I think everybody that has spoken this morning has done a fantastic job. Being an elected official since 2014, Jeff said it right. We think we are going to change the world and have all these agendas, but we're in charge of the numbers and working with the administration to move things forward for our community, and we've done that, and we've been very successful. My background, for those of you who do not know me, in 1984, my family moved to Findlay from Youngstown, Ohio. My father was brought here to lead economic development, and they developed Tall Timbers Industrial Park. So I grew up around economic development, the community leaders, and the employees and the citizens that made our community what it is today. I love Findlay. I love what we do together, how we accomplish things. We can do things on our own. For instance, just like with flood mitigation, we were with the Army Corps for many years, spending lots of money and didn't get much done. But when we made the decision to do things ourselves and come together, we're seeing success. We're seeing the benching project moving forward, a possible second benching project going from there. So we're seeing improvement in our community. A big thing for me on City Council has always been police and fire. I've always been the one that's lobbied for increasing our police and fire staffing. Our police and fire number complements have not changed since the mid-90s. So our city has expanded, but our police and fire services have not. And we have an obligation not only with infrastructure and making our community great, but making sure our safety and security is top-notch. As a councilwoman, I have always wanted to increase those numbers. Looking at this view as a mayor candidate, I want to implement a 5-year plan that we can get our police and staffing numbers up to where they need to be. Because like many candidates spoke today, we have an opiate problem. We have a crime problem. We need to be addressing that. We need to be proactive and less reactive. When we're talking about the opiate problem, we're talking about staffing. So with a 5-year plan, we'll be able to increase those numbers, just like we've implemented on City Council since I've been in office, a 5-year capital plan. It's working great. We're seeing carry forward balances, and our community is doing well. Another big thing for me is our downtown. Downtown Findlay is the heart of our community. It always has been. We've done some great improvements over the last 2 years in our downtown, but we continue to ignore that elephant in the room, which is parking. I want to work with the DFID, the downtown businesses, the private individuals who have ideas on how we can figure out our parking problem. I think we can accomplish that, which will be a benefit for our businesses and increase downtown living in our community. Tax deferrals, many of you have probably heard about tax deferrals. That has been a major issue in our community for the last 5 years. I am open to 2 options. One is if we want to continue tax deferrals, that we implement a process and an application so everybody in this room and every business knows what it takes to qualify and if it is an option for you. Currently, we have 52 businesses, I believe, and 2 individuals that are being deferred. On council, I worked with our law director in the income tax department, and we implemented some information to share more of what our numbers are that are being deferred so we know what's happening as a council to be able to budget better. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Brian Robertson.
Certainly, good afternoon. It's been an honor to serve you as a county commissioner. Most people may or may not know that I'm the youngest of 13 children, so I grew up humble. But I think that was good for me in terms of having that mentoring of 12 older brothers and sisters that had all the sand in the bucket and always told me what to do. But with that being said, we have challenges, and despite all the blessings we've talked about today. And for all the other elected officials out there, I wish you good luck on the ballot. I did check with Josette Brinkman this morning. She does have sign materials available, so there's still time to get more signs. But signs on our challenges. We've had challenges since I've come into office, like a garage mahal being built at $6.8 million. But somebody's got to come in from an executive standpoint, like myself from the private sector, and say, let's have a private sector discussion on what we need to do. We re-engineered that garage mahal, put it out for bid at $3.1 million, built it for $2.9 million. That's a business result in terms of executive leadership and executive dialogue and working with others. And certainly Chris Long and his staff was a big part of cooperating on that re-engineering. I went to D.C. in May of 2013, 5 months in the office, walked the Hill, met with the Army Corps, and walked away after talking with Letmon Lee about whether we would ever receive federal funding. I asked him one question: what's the key when Congress racks and stacks the federal funding? And it's not cost benefit. It was simple: loss of life. It was then I knew that we were probably never going to see federal funding, no matter how much investment took place locally here in Findlay, Ohio, for Northwest Ohio. Certainly I was asked to show patience by our business community, and I did. That's called cooperation and collaboration. But 2.5 years later, we've left the Army Corps. I was part of the selection committee to choose the independent engineering firm Stantec, and we obviously broke ground last October, which is a credit to the diligence and the persistence of this community 50 years later, not just a decade later. And lastly, we talk about opiate and safety and security in our community. Everybody's talking about it for the most part at the forum tonight. Somebody had to have an executive discussion within our community, which started for me back in 2016, to say our jail is at capacity. If you want to know what the #1 treatment and holding facility is for those battling mental health and our addiction, it is the Hancock County Justice Center, and it's at capacity. What happened to our overdose numbers over the next year? 30 overdoses. Everybody was shocked. In 2017, we had a public hearings to talk about tax and funding for that. If you want to add more law enforcement, it's going to require funding. If you need to build a bigger jail, it's going to require funding. For 10 to 20 years, the city and county studied building a jail. I am one of the executives that made the decision that we're going to fund that jail, and we did it without raising taxes. And we need to understand that if we want to spend billions of dollars to protect our borders from drugs coming in from Mexico, we've got to spend about $14 million to make sure we house those drug dealers as recently as 48 hours ago from Nevada and other states that are bringing drugs into our community and killing our friends and families. I know tough decisions have had to be made. Tough decisions lie ahead in the future. And as a person who's worked in corporate America, corporate Japan, and corporate Europe, 16 years ago left and built 2 multi-million-dollar companies, I am not a successful guy in terms of materialistic standards, but I'm a successful guy because my wife and I have served the greater good of our community. From Sunday school to my wife being on school board. I ask for your support. I look forward to continuing to serve the best of this community by sharing my God-given talents. And with that, good luck to everybody who's on the ballot. I believe in competition. I hope to see more private sector people competing in politics in the future. Thank you.
I won't move around too much since I have the camera going. Good morning, good afternoon. I'm Christina Mern, the current mayor. It's my pleasure to be here this morning to share a little more information about myself. I believe that the majority of topics that we've heard from each candidate are the exact same things that I would share with you. We all know that the opioid issue, flood mitigation, workforce development, and affordable housing are the front of everyone's mind. And certainly those issues are going to be able to be addressed as we work together, we come together as a community and continue Findlay's success and collaboration through the for-profits, the private sector, public sector, and the citizens to address those issues. Really what I'd like to share more so is a little bit about my background and why I'm passionate about this position and why I know I'm the right candidate. I grew up and, I know that everybody keeps saying, well, she's so young. Well, I don't think necessarily age is a sign of wisdom. I don't necessarily think that age is a sign of experience. But what I do know is that through my life experiences, having my parents divorced when I was 6, losing my father when I was 11, and being raised practically by a single mother who many Sundays we would have folks from church drop off a loaf of bread and a dozen eggs and a gallon milk on my front step, I understand what it's like to struggle in this community and feel like you're being left behind. Now, I've been fortunate because I believe that anyone can achieve anything at any stage in life, and they believe in themselves, they believe in God, and they're willing to work hard enough. And anything that I put my mind to, I'll put 110%, and I'll be successful. And I don't allow the parameters of what people think to hold me back. And that's exactly what we need in the mayor's office. Someone who has not burned bridges, who understands what it's like to build relationships, to have empathy and love for individuals within their community, whether they have the same or differing opinions than you, and to understand that nothing is succeeded on your own. It's about working together. It's about having a vision. It's about understanding that, finances are important, but it's important to build a strong team. We have been fortunate that over the last couple of years, we've been able to put ourselves in a strong financial position. And that's because of the responsibility of council, a strong administration, and the community holding us accountable. Does that mean that we've done everything right? Certainly not. I understand that. But when we work together, when we have a strong council, when we have a strong administration, when we continue to work with those in our community that want to continue to invest here and build their homes here and invest their time and talent, that's when we're going to be successful. So my work experience, I graduated from the University of Findlay with degrees in economics. I was very involved at the University of Findlay in many ways. I grew up involved at my church, New Life Assembly of God, where I continue to serve, helping lead the high school Bible study as well as on the worship team. I'm the third of 4 girls. I love spoiling my nieces and nephews. I've been working the past couple of years as the Director of Business and Physician Development with Pain Management Group, where I negotiated contracts for hospitals across the Midwest, where I've seen the communities that haven't had the investment, from small critical access communities to large Memphis, Tennessee. I've negotiated billion-dollar contracts. I'm not going to shy away from making those tough decisions. I'm comfortable with the financials. I understand the opioid crisis. I understand what it's like to be able to set a strategy, to market and communicate the vision. And I hope that by earning your vote this season and by you spreading the words to your friends and family, I'll continue to lead this community with a vision and passion that each and every one of us have in this room. Thank you.
Okay, if you have questions lying on your table, would you raise your hand? Okay. Tim, you want to pick them up and bring them to me? Anybody else got questions laying around? Okay. Before we sing Kumbaya, we'll take these questions. Okay. I'll ask the mayor candidates to come back up, all three of you. To the mayor's candidates, would you be in favor of using property of the old Parker lumber next to the jail for the Justice Center, for a new Justice Center?
I'd be happy to consider it. I think looking at all the properties that we have available downtown makes sense, so I'm certainly open to that.
So we're talking about expanding our jail or moving the jail. Personally, I think we should keep our jail in the downtown, so I would be completely open to using that property to make that expansion.
This is probably a little near and dear to my heart as a county commissioner, but we do have some people that have an interest in saying, would it make more sense to relocate the jail? So I think we're certainly going to analyze it, but I think in the end, from a cost effectiveness and from an operations standpoint, we're going to find it expanding into that lot and making an arrangement with the city is going to be the most cost-effective way to expand it and operate it. You don't want to duplicate nursing. You don't want to have to transport, for example, if you use land on County Road 140, transport people back to the courts. So the logistical cost, the infrastructure cost make more sense. But again, let's keep an open mind. Let's look at both sides of it. But I think that's where the math's going to show us at the end.
Based on your past experience with the GOP, that's the party here, grand old party, do you consider yourself an insider or an outsider?
Well, let's just be honest. I was fortunate enough to, my last two primaries, to win all 35 city precincts, and in the most recent election for commissioner, I won all 60 precincts, and that is really a gift with 63% of the support of the community. Unfortunately, 6 years later in office, I don't have a seat on Central Committee. I don't have a seat in Executive Committee. So I've often discussed with Mr. Jim Baker, why isn't there a place for me to maybe serve in the party? I think my wife and I have both been generous to the party in both time hitting doors for federal candidates and at the same time in terms of supporting and funding with the Republican Party. So hopefully in God's time, I'll get a seat to maybe help support in a greater role. Thank you.
Our Republican Party is very open. I think everybody is an insider and not an outsider. I have been personally involved with the Republican Party for 17 years. I've worked with many candidates, state, national, and local. I have done fundraising efforts and stuff. We have a lot of good things that happen within our party, so I think everybody's an insider.
I would agree with the councilwoman. The Central Committee meetings are open to anyone who would like to attend in council chambers the fourth Monday of the month. I've been happy to attend those. Those were the previous 6 or 7 years. I at one point was on Executive Committee and then Central Committee for about 4 years. Last year I moved out of my ward, so I'm not currently serving on Central Committee, but I would say that anyone who would like to be a part, we'd be happy to have you part of the inside.
Okay, thank you. If you serve on committees, you do have something to do. So it's not being elected to that committee, the Central Committee, or being on the Executive Committee. But if you're interested, I'm sure if you'd see Jim Baker over there, Brian, see Jim. And if you're interested, see Jim Baker, and he can give you directions on what you need to do, and you can get involved. There's always room. The tent has no sides. So it's wide open. There's always room for you to help. There's always room for you to share. I know Jim's available. I'm available. Most every elected official here is available. Most everybody in this room is available. So if you need to talk to someone, don't hesitate. The other question that you have here is how does expanding the jail help the opiate problem? and if it does?
So our jail has been busting at the seams for a little while now, a couple years. Unfortunately, it is our #1 detox facility, but our crime has increased because our opiate problem has increased. So we have a need there. It's not a want, it's a need. I believe with the opiate problem, we need to address that problem for one, but we also need to be becoming more proactive, and we need to be engaging the citizens and our youth before they get to that stage. So hopefully we see a change in our jail capacity, but we're going to have to increase that jail because it is a need and not a want.
So as I've been discussing along with our sheriff's office, our courts, and I think the Muni Court has had the same opinions there, as well as our prosecutor's office. We spend about $400,000 a year in healthcare costs for those we incarcerate within the jail. We spent about $87,000 last year in emergency care down at Blanchard Valley Hospital. So we definitely need to be able to hold people that are a harm to themselves or a harm to others and get them on a path of care to treatment. But one thing that we're hearing tonight is, though I'm criticized at times for financing the expansion of the jail, what I'm hearing today is that we all agree there is a need to expand the jail, and that's where tough decisions need to be made. So thank you.
I don't think expanding the jail is going to help the opiate issue. The way that is going to be solved is by continued education, prevention, and everyone continuing to come together and connecting folks with resources more efficiently and before they get to the level of care where they're getting thrown into jail. Obviously, with my background in pain management, I understand how the healthcare field plays a role in that. So I think there's a lot of opportunity with my background to be able to help. I think that when it comes to the jail, we need to do additional studies and understand. I think our jail needs expanded, not just because of the increased criminal activity that we're seeing related to the opiate issue, but because, as we've all talked about today, our community has grown. The county has expanded. We're holding folks from other areas. So is there an opportunity to be fiscally responsible and look at expanding for long term to be able to help other counties out as well? Certainly. There's a lot more research, though, that we need to do to make sure we're making a wise, long-term investment in our community and not just reacting.
Since we have a tie up here, that everybody's gone first, they said I could do this. So, here's the question. Given that we are #1 metropolitan city for 5 years straight, can you talk about the synergy between government, business, and the residents of the city of Findlay? Since you're in the middle.
So we have been fortunate to be #1 micropolitan for 5 years. We also are seeing a problem with a shortage in our housing market. Affordable housing in particular, we seem to be addressing the higher market for rentals, and the lower market was subsidized. There's a lot of people in the middle. Just the other day, my daughter came home from school and said, I have a teacher that's moving to Findlay and can't find an apartment to live in because I don't meet the low income qualifications and I don't have the income to hit the higher rental rate. So we need to address that. We are also looking at the fact that we are having, our pockets aren't getting filled, our citizens' pockets aren't getting filled for the work that they do. We have a very strong work ethic in our community. Our citizens have always worked very hard. So I feel we need to diversify our economic development plan. We need to look for technology, engineering, healthcare jobs. I would love to see a connection of our downtown to the University of Findlay and work with the university with co-op programs and other opportunities to bring students here, train here, and stay here. So those are the couple.
Just related to synergy, I think at times there's a lot of confusion between the city, the county, the state, but basically the state creates a job incentive relative to sales tax. In other words, sales tax is sacrificed. That certainly impacts the county's revenue, but at the same time it generates for those businesses within the city income for the city. So it's kind of the old adage, robbing Peter to pay Paul. But it's greater for the community as a whole in terms of job creation. Make no mistake about it, for 100 years, we have been a constant golden rule, or golden jewel, or crown jewel of Northwest Ohio because of the work ethic of Findlay and Hancock County. We're an entrepreneurial, private sector-driven community. We've always had good synergy on the economic development side. There's been a few rifts along the way over the last 30 years or so, but in the big picture, we've had tremendous synergy. Those same collaborative principles need to be applied to the problems we're dealing with, whether it's housing, whether it's workforce development, and those same tools will apply in terms of helping to improve those going forward.
Wonderful. Well, we are very fortunate. I think we all know that here, that we work well together. I think what I would like to see to continue to build on those synergies is better communication. I think what we do well is the city economic development. We kind of all know our order, but I don't think we necessarily communicate that effectively. So sometimes the citizens feel like they're being left out or being kept in the dark on a situation when really the kind of behind the scenes work has been happening. But we need to make sure that we're including everyone in that to continue to build on those successes. I think we are fortunate, and I look forward to continuing to work with economic development and, again, the private and public sector. We can't take it for granted. It's very easy to have poor relationships get in the way of those synergies, and I know that because of my relationships within the community and my mentality and how I approach things, you can disagree with me all you want. That's perfectly fine. I'm going to continue to respect you and be able to work through that, and I think that I will serve us well in continuing those synergies.
Thank you, Mayor, toward the candidates. Okay, just checking to make sure we haven't missed anything, or anybody had any other news that we needed to have before we left. I'd like to thank all the candidates for being here. I'd like to thank all the elected officials for being here, and I'd like to thank all the citizenry for being here. We appreciate you. We appreciate your support, and if you have any questions, anything we can do to help you out, let me know. So thank you, God bless you, and have a great weekend.